Everyone, I would like to call to order the February 14th, 2024 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Georgette, would you please call the roll?
Recording in progress.
Director Bernard Jakes,
Yes.
Johnny Miller,
Here.
Nima Jah. Here. Chairman Barclay.
Here.
We do have a quorum. Michelle Lee has advised us that she's en route and she's running late.
Okay.
And Director Ortiz will not be in attendance today.
Our first order of business is the approval of committee minutes from January 18th, 2024. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Jah that we approve the committee minutes of January 18th, 2024. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Jah,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Miller.
Yes.
The motion passes.
The next order of business is the finance report. Michelle Curran.
Good morning.
Morning.
Screen here. Okay. Okay. Good morning. I'm Michelle Curran, Deputy CFO and Comptroller. This morning, I'll review the financial results for December and year-to-date. For the month of December, fare and pass revenues were positive $1.5 million to the budget. The reduced fare subsidy is $600,000 favorable to budget due to the state increase in the reimbursement. Non-fare box revenues are unfavorable to budget by $200,000, driven by lower advertising revenues, and overall revenues are $1.9 million favorable to budget. On a year-to-date basis, fare and pass revenues are up $13.3 million compared to budget, up 37.9 million compared to 2022. Reduced fare subsidy is $600,000 favorable to budget, and non-fare box revenues are up $4.6 million compared to budget. Overall, year-to-date revenues are $18.5 million favorable to budget and up $36.3 million compared to 2022. On the expense side, for December, labor is favorable $16 million compared to budget, in part due to certain year-end accounting adjustments. Materials, $300,000 favorable. Fuel and power are favorable $1.9 million and $800,000 respectively for the month. Provision for injuries and damages is flat to budget. Security services is $4.5 million unfavorable to budget due to increased security measures and timing of invoices. And other expenses are favorable to budget by $3.9 million. So overall, December expenses are positive to budget by $18.5 million. Coupled with revenues, actuals are favorable $20.4 million to the budget. On a year-to-date basis, labor is favorable $79.6 million compared to budget. Material is flat. Fuel is positive $14.2 million. Power is positive $5.2 million. Provision for injuries and damages is flat to budget. Security services are unfavorable $22.7 million to budget, and other expenses are favorable $45.9 million. Overall, year-to-date expenses through December are positive to budget by $122.1 million. Revenues coupled with expenses are positive $140.6 million to budget. With regard to our public funding revenues, sales tax collections for October were $1.9 million favorable to budget. The December collection for public transportation funds was $2 million favorable to budget, and real estate transfer tax for rent revenues for December was unfavorable $1 million to budget due to the slow real estate market fueled by higher interest rates. And similarly, PTF on rent was $500,000 unfavorable to budget. Overall, for the month, public funding revenues were favorable $2.4 million compared to budget. Following similar form, 2023 year-to-date collections are $8.7 million favorable to budget, with good performance on sales tax, but largely offset by the depressed real estate market. With regard to our federal relief funding, for the month, we will draw $4.1 million of CRISA, ARP formula, and ARP discretionary funds. Overall, we've drawn just over 53% of our federal relief funds and have over $1 billion remaining going into 2024. There's been no recent changes on the commodity side. We're locked in for where we need to be on diesel. Power, we talked about last month, we're going out with an RFP for additional power purchases, and natural gas, we're locked in through 2026 as well. So this month we've added a few slides to the presentation to review 2023 revenue performance. The pandemic obviously took a significant toll on our revenues, but we've seen significant and steady growth coming out of the pandemic. To provide some background information, during the pandemic, CTA temporarily eliminated fares on bus as we implemented rear door boarding for social distancing protocols and also permanently lowered pass prices and eliminated transfer fees to induce ridership. The pandemic provided the opportunity to adjust pass ratios based on ridership trends. Originally, we had assumed such measures could result in lower revenues, but we've actually seen revenues increase. In fact, passes now represent a larger percent of sales than even pre-pandemic. Federal relief funding and state's waiver of the recovery ratio allowed CTA to experiment with pricing and provide a benefit to its customers. We've also seen significant improvements in our other revenue streams, primarily advertising and public funding, which we'll discuss in a moment. Since the pandemic lows, CTA farebox revenue continues to make a strong recovery. For example, in May 2020, farebox revenue was only $5.6 million, or 11% of May 2019 revenue. Revenues grew to $29.1 million in May 2023, which is 419% higher than in May 2020. 2023 fare revenue grew 41% compared to 2020 and ended the year at 56% of 2019 levels. Fare revenue is also expected to continue growing in 2024 by an additional $16 million or 5%. The increased pass revenue has helped lead this recovery. Despite price adjustments, CTA is still in line with or higher than comparable agency farebox revenue retention. As you can see in the lower graph on the bottom left-hand side, we're in line with MBTA in Boston and SEPTA in Philly and above WMATA in Washington, D.C. CTA continued to see positive trends in pass utilization despite industry trends. The pass percentage of farebox revenue has grown from 40% pre-pandemic to 45% in 2023. This is good news for ridership because passes generally result in higher ridership usage and also retains those riders longer. As you can see in the graph at the top of the page, farebox revenue increased quickly following reopenings and fare price reductions, and has continued a steady increase since January 2022. The initial reopening allowed farebox revenue to grow by $9.5 million or 170%. Pass price adjustments in May 2021 helped fuel farebox revenue growth by $7.7 million or 42% until the Omicron variant hit. We've seen positive impact, particularly on the 1 and 7 day passes. The 1 day pass revenue is 222% higher than 2019, and the 7 day pass revenue is 73% of 2019 levels, significantly higher than the overall revenue retention of 56%. 30 day pass price adjustments and the elimination of the transfer fee, along with prior pass adjustments, has helped revenue growth by $4.7 million or 18% through the end of 2023. Despite these pricing reductions, farebox revenue has increased steadily since January 2022. From 2021 to 2022, farebox revenue grew by $48 million or 20%. And from 2022 to 2023, farebox revenue grew by $38 million or 13%. As I mentioned earlier, we expect to see fare revenue to continue growing in 2024. CTA advertising revenue also continues to recover, and public funding is even exceeding 2019 levels. Advertising revenue in 2023 was 40% higher than in 2020, and the revenue retention rate is a strong 75% of 2019 levels due to the strong economy, which is exceeding the fare revenue retention of 56% of 2019. Advertising is projected to grow $4.5 million in 2024. In addition, public funding has also seen significant growth and is even higher than pre-pandemic levels. 2023 public funding is expected to be over $300 million or 24% higher than in 2020, and more than $225 million or 28% higher than in 2019 due to increased sales tax receipts. In 2021, state law required local sales tax rates to be applied to online sales as well. Sales tax revenues have also benefited from the legalization of cannabis, high inflation, and the strong economy. Public funding is projected to grow $34 million or 3% in 2024. As you can see, while we aren't at pre-pandemic revenue levels yet, it has been rebounding. It's been critical for CTA to have reliable funding to allow us to adjust past prices and work with the other service boards to provide a benefit to our riders. And it will be critical for CTA and the region to be adequately funded going into the future. That concludes our presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Now, I asked a lot of questions yesterday, Michelle, with Jeremy, so I'm fine. Thank you.
Director Ja,
No questions, thank you.
Chairman Barclay.
Just a comment. Thank you, Michelle, for the update. I as well asked a lot of questions during the briefing. Say that I was really pleased with the success of the past sales and what's been done there. And that message really needs to be told to the public. And the success that to bringing that to light. But another message that needs to be came from that is highlighted that adequate funding made that possible. And that dollars to do those kinds of things. So, more of that creativity, but I don't need resources in order to do that. Last week I had an opportunity to travel to Springfield and to talk with legislators, RTA's day, that sort of brought all the service boards together to talk about to the legislatures adequate funding to fund CTA, Metro, PACE. And so I think that when you have adequate funding, you can do those kinds of things. I'm very pleased that you guys were very creative in using those resources to accomplish that goal. And that story does need to be told.
Director Miller,
No question. Thank you.
Director Lee,
No questions, thanks for the updates.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions. You may proceed to agenda item number 4.
Next order of business is an ordinance authorizing an update to ordinance number 023-118 to authorize up to $9 million for stipends to encourage proposals for the Red Line Extension Project Design Build Contract. Bill Mooney.
Good morning, Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. Staff recommends approval of an ordinance increasing the allowable stipend amount for the Red Line Extension construction contract to a total value of $9 million. Industry custom and best practice for design build mega projects call for the payment of stipends to unsuccessful proposers, and the board previously approved payment of $3 million stipend for each unsuccessful proposal. To continue to encourage competitiveness and engineering innovations, staff is recommending increasing the stipend amount to $4.5 million per an unsuccessful bidder, or a total approved value of $9 million. I'll be happy to take any questions on this item.
No, I have no questions.
Director Lee,
No questions, thanks.
Director Miller,
No question.
Chairman Barclay,
No question.
Director Ja. Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
I now have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval.
So move.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that this item be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja.
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
Chairman Barclay.
Yes.
Director Miller.
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, we may proceed to agenda item number 5.
We will now review an ordinance authorizing a lease of property located at 11203 South Corliss Avenue, Chicago, for the Red Line Extension Project. Bill?
Staff is recommending approval of an ordinance authorizing a lease of the property located at 11203 South Corliss Avenue in Chicago for a construction project office for the Red Line Extensions project. In support of the execution of the RLE project, staff has need for office space to house CTA personnel, construction manager, and the design build contract team in the project footprint. Staff has identified the proposed property, which includes 19,604 square foot building and 128,163 square feet of land. The lease will have an initial term of 2 years with 4 one-year options to extend for an initial rental rate of $24,505 per month. The lease includes annual rent increases of 75 cents per square foot. I'll be happy to take any questions on this item.
Bill, you said it's 2 years and,
Or 1-year options.
okay, thank you.
Director Ja. Chairman Barclay. Director Miller,
No questions.
Director Lee,
No questions.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
May I now have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that this item be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Ja.
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed to agenda item number 6.
We will now review an ordinance authorizing a first amendment to a license agreement with Christ Temple Missionary Baptist Church for property located at 57 West 95th Street. Bill.
Staff recommends the board approve a First Amendment to a license agreement for the property located at 57 West 95th Street in Chicago, near the 95th Dan Ryan Red Line Station. Christ Temple Missionary Baptist Church owns the property, which is a surface lot consisting of approximately 7,125 square feet, which CTA licensed in February of 2023 to use for employee parking for $750 per month. The net revenue that Christ Temple receives pursuant to this license agreement is less than Christ Temple anticipated due to tax implications. As a result, Christ Temple has requested an increase in the monthly fee. Christ Temple has the right to terminate the agreement, and CTA continues to have need for such parking. So CTA and Christ Temple have agreed to a First Amendment to the license agreement to increase the license fee from $750 to $1,000 a month. I'd like to take any questions.
And that 1,000 a month will cover whatever taxes they have.
It's the difference of the impact of taxes.
Okay, and is there in that agreement for them not to come back and say we need more?
It is at their sole discretion to give us notice to cancel the license at any time, as we have the right to cancel with a certain amount of notice as well. They certainly could attempt to renegotiate at a future date if they desire. So.
Okay. All right, thank you.
We'll take questions. Director Ja,
No questions.
Chairman Barclay.
Are we still pursuing the McDonald's across the street?
We've taken a look at the property, sir. We have a rough valuation of what we think it's worth, as well as we've got some scoping estimates about what we think the cost to construct the property would be. We are also in participation with the Chicago Department of Planning and their corridor development, in which their kind of final plan comes out towards the end of this year. And we're really looking to see kind of what's on the tail of that plan with the overall corridor and the use of all the property and what's the best highest use for the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Director Miller,
No question.
Director Lee,
No questions.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
And just so the public will know, the property that he's talking about on that McDonald's is on the corner of 95th and
Lafayette.
where the hub is. Okay. Next order of business today is the review of, I'm sorry, what?
We need a motion to place this item on the omnibus for board approval.
I don't want to do that. And I have leave the places. Approve it.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Ja. The motion passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed to agenda item number 7.
Our next meeting today is the review of contract number A1, transit operations. No questions.
Are there any other questions? Director Ja,
No questions.
Chairman Barclay,
No question.
Director Miller,
No question.
Director Lee. You may now proceed to contracts B1 through B4.
Next order of business today is the review of contract number B1 through B4, contract awards for infrastructure. No questions.
We'll take questions. Director Lee. Director Miller,
No question.
Chairman Barclay,
None.
Director Ja,
Questions.
Director Jakes, you may now proceed to contract F1.
Our next order of business today is the review of contracts numbered F1, contract award for administration. No questions.
Director Ja, any questions?
Questions.
Chairman Barclay,
No question.
Director Miller,
No question.
Director Lee, Director Jakes, you may now proceed to contracts G1 through G2.
Our next order of business today is the review of contracts numbered G1 through G2, contract award for technology. No questions.
Director Ja, any questions? Chairman Barclay, Director Miller,
No question.
Director Lee, Director Jakes, there are no questions. We may now proceed to contract J1.
Our next order of business today is the review of contracts numbered J1. It's a contract award for law. No questions.
Director Ja, any questions? Chairman Barclay,
No questions.
Director Miller,
No question.
Director Lee, Director Jakes, there are no further questions.
Since there are no further questions on the contracts, may I have leave to place the 9 contracts on the omnibus?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that the 9 contracts be placed on the omnibus. We will take a roll call vote. Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Ja.
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed to committee agenda item number 8. I'm sorry, you may now proceed to 7B.
Since there's no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus and recommend the omnibus for board approval?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that the omnibus be approved. We will take a roll call vote. Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Ja. The motion passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed to agenda item number 8.
And finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
May we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that we adjourn this meeting. Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Miller.
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Ja.
Yes.
The motion passes.
At 10 o'clock. It must be Ash Wednesday.
You did it, man.
Yes, keep it moving.
Please.
February 14th, 2024. Georgette, please call the roll.
Director Lee. Director Miller,
Here.
Chairman Barclay,
Here.
Director Jakes,
Here.
Director Ja.
Here.
Chairman Barclay, you do have a quorum with 5 members present. Director Ortiz will be absent today.
Thank you. Our first order of business is public comments. Georgette?
Chairman Barclay, we do have 4 public comments that have, I think, shown up today, 1 by phone, which makes it 6. We will do our phone commenter first. Ms. Courtney Cobbs. And I'm trying to understand what Vita is telling me with her thumbs. Okay, I think that means yes. And Ms. Cobbs, are you there?
I am.
Okay, I'd
I
like
am.
to. Hi, thank you for being present to make a comment on today. You will have 3 minutes and your time starts now.
I am an occasional user of the CTA. I would like to use the CTA more often, but generally it takes me longer to use the CTA than to make those same trips on my bike. I am deeply concerned about the working conditions of CTA workers. I didn't have time to pull it up, but I came across a thread from someone who attended the recent job fair for CTA, and this person was told that it would be common for them to not know their shift 48 hours in advance. I don't think most people will accept those types of working conditions, and I think it should be unacceptable for the people who are operating heavy machinery, driving around people in Chicago to work under those conditions. I hope that the CTA will work with the labor union to improve working conditions for CTA workers. I would like to live in a Chicago where working for the CTA is one of the most coveted jobs in the city. I personally hate driving, and I am grateful for every CTA worker who has a part in getting around the hundreds of thousands of Chicagoans who rely on it. And I think we owe it to them to improve their working conditions and make their job one of the best jobs in the city. And the board has a role in that, and I hope that the board takes that more seriously going forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next public commentator is Brandon McFadden. Good morning, Mr. McFadden. I'd like to remind you that you have 3 minutes and your time starts now.
Good morning, members of the board and President Carter. My name is Brandon McFadden, an organizer with Commuters Take Action, a local collective of riders advocating for better transit. With a background in data analytics, which is apparent from my various transit reliability trackers I've created, it's fair to say I appreciate a good side project, which brings me to the first reason for my public comment today. The CTA's FOIA process is slow, painfully slow. The CTA is consistently in violation of the requirements set forth by the Illinois General Assembly. In the last 75 business days, I've submitted 3 requests to the CTA. One responded to after 49 days, and the other coming in just this morning after being open for 59 days. The others remain unanswered. I've heard plenty of stories from others that are experiencing the same thing. It should not take numerous months to return data that I know can be retrieved in less than 5 minutes. It absolutely shouldn't take involvement from the Illinois Attorney General's office to get a response either. FOIA office needs additional headcount, which you are required to do by the Illinois compiled statutes. I'd also like to talk about Super Bowl Sunday, something I never anticipated having to talk to a transit board about. First, the good news. Whoever came up with the idea to run the shuttle train on the Cottage Grove branch is brilliant, as it's likely the only reason the Green Line service delivery remained high for so long on Sunday. Unfortunately, not every line was as reliable, though. The Blue Line in particular faced significant challenges throughout the entire day. At one point, Forest Park-bound riders endured a 54-minute wait for the train as the line logged one of its worst performance days in recent history, excluding New Year's weekend. The Blue Line wasn't the only one that suffered either. The orange, pink, purple, and red all dipped into the 50% ranges as the night went on. I'm genuinely curious why the CTA persistently designs schedules that are unrealistic given the limitations on crew resources. Schedules that leave no flexibility for absences or disruptions. Many other transit agencies and other industries have resolved this issue long ago, so there's no excuse for this to continue to plague our system. Director Jakes, we're still waiting on you or the board to reach out in regards to scheduling a meeting with us. While it was clear that we need more meetings like yesterday, which included advocates from many organizations, they simply won't do. While there was an opportunity to ask questions, it's clear that the CTA isn't properly engaging with anyone, or at least not enough, given the onslaught of questions that were asked during yesterday's meeting. As always, we extend an open invitation to both the board and the CTA to collaborate. Regardless of claims made in the press, we still share a common goal, a frequent, safe, and reliable transit system for all Chicagoans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon, I have a question. I missed the first part of what you said. When I couldn't understand you. You said that there's a something flaw. What was that? It was like in the first 10 or 12 words. Oh, yeah.
The FOIA process.
Oh, it was FOIA process. Got it. Okay. Gotcha.
Our next public commentator is Nick Hunter.
All right,
Good morning, Mr. Hunter. Your time starts now.
thank you. Every month I come to these board meetings and the same thing kind of happens. So after denying my attempts to engage with CTA, I come here, get told I'm not engaging. The board declares the system is doing pretty good, and then we all come back the next month. The CTA might think it can set up Potemkin-style board meetings once a month to avoid accountability, but such behavior really doesn't apply to City Council, which we'll learn soon. Now it's time to review a sequence of events beginning with the last board meeting. In response to a published op-ed, the president used this time to personally mention and criticize 2 people who are seeking to hold him accountable in an atmosphere clouded by ambiguity. Such behavior is unbefitting to the CTA. But rather than try and let you drag our names through the mud, even though your rebukes never include your information source, I did what I always do and went to go find yet another source to prove my claim. And I didn't have to look very hard thanks to your staff. That 12-month Flagger to RTO pipeline you keep contesting, at the Flagger hiring fair you didn't attend, your rail manager for the Howard terminal confirmed it does take on average 12 months to transition into an RTO from a Flagger. So I really hope it was worth trying to call out Christina and I, writing a letter to the editor of the Tribune and making a press release only for us to be writing our analysis anyways. And I did actually ask your FOIA department follow-up questions about the data they provided me, but no one responded. I have the email right here. And now I'd like to read a paragraph of President Carter's words back to the board. Responding to Director Jakes, he said, quote, I can tell you that had someone come to us and talked to us about the data, we would have certainly explained where the errors were and the assumptions that were being made. But if your goal isn't to talk to us, and if your goal is really to try, make statements in the public venue, that becomes very hard to achieve. So come on, do you think no one is paying attention? I literally asked your FOIA department for an answer and they didn't answer me. So we did come to you. And as noted in the open letter, we've asked CTA 10 times via public comment to work with us, but no one responds. I just asked at last month's meeting. That afternoon, I emailed the board office for a copy of the plan President Carter keeps waving in front of our faces on how to train 200 RTOs. And the conclusion of that conversation 2 weeks later was, quote, this office defers to the FOIA process, close quote. So stop pretending we are the barrier. This absolutely has to be the coup de grace in the story of CTA's unwillingness to be forthcoming with information. The general public understands that we are working for them, but President Carter and his C-suite at large are trying to cast us as a bunch of haters. That's very incorrect. We are a resource for you to utilize, actually. When it comes time to lobby for a transportation package in Springfield, you can give us a call. We won't think twice about committing to coming. Having a group of people who spend their time holding you accountable and are willing to donate time to help you and your system succeed is not what haters do. So for the 11th or the 12th, 11th, and soon to be 13th time, please work with us. But last, I'd like to share some
You
positive.
have 10 seconds.
All right, some positive news. I made an attempt at the L Speed Run Challenge where you visit all stations as fast as possible. And across 9.5 hours, all my trains left their terminals on time. And also I saw 2 people maybe find love on that 95 bus. So good vibes.
Thank you.
Also, have a bunch of materials for the board.
Thank you.
Over.
Thanks, Nate.
Our next public commentator is Caroline Pavlovic. Morning, you have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
Yes, good morning. My name is Caroline Pavlicek, and I'm an organizer with Commuters Take Action, as well as a member of the CTA Citizens Advisory Board. And I'm here today to talk about communication between advocacy groups, the board, and CTA leadership. In early January, Commuters Take Action received some concerns from riders about buses not picking up students near Evanston Township High School in the afternoons after school gets out. Often, when riders submit concerns regarding CTA service via the feedback form, they receive canned responses that result in no action being taken. So it's common for them to reach out to us instead of the CTA. Since I do a lot of work with data in my day job, I wanted to investigate and see if there were any specific identifiable patterns or days where there were fewer boardings that did not make sense based on the school calendar. Therefore, I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to get anonymized ridership data. It has now been over a month, and I have yet to receive a response from CTA. This is not the first time CTA has failed to respond to our FOIA requests in a timely manner. In addition to this request, I have one other open case with the Public Access Counselor in the Illinois Attorney General's office due to lack of response, and other members of Commuters Take Action have several more. We as advocates have been criticized by members of CTA leadership for not wanting to have a conversation with them when this is just not true. We have repeatedly asked to do so and are almost always brushed off. So we have to resort to things like filing FOIA requests and publishing op-eds in local newspapers to get any sort of response. In my opinion, this lack of response is unnecessarily adversarial and certainly no way for a public body to interact with advocates when we share one common goal, improving service for riders. I have had similar experiences in my capacity as a Citizens Advisory Board member as well. I have felt that we have had little input on which members of CTA leadership we would like to have present to us, and we often do not know who will be presenting until the day of because the agendas simply say staff presentations. Also, at our last meeting on December 13th, we had one staff presentation abruptly get canceled, and I have heard nothing about when or if this presentation will be rescheduled. CTA board members and leadership need to start taking engagement with citizens and advocacy groups far more seriously. Even if someone does not have engagement in their official title, it is incumbent on everyone in leadership of a public body to meaningfully interact with those they serve. While Commuters Take Action has been on a few calls recently, they've usually been larger calls with multiple groups where it is difficult for us and for the other groups on the call to have a dialogue with CTA. Those groups too have not been heard. So all of us are asking tons of questions at once and having many of them just not get answered. I encourage all of you and everyone in CTA's senior leadership to reach out to us and have a conversation. Our email address is commuterstakeaction@gmail.com. And we have several group members in the room here today who would be happy to start a dialogue on anything related to the CTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public commentator is Bill Morton. Good morning, Mr. Morton.
Good morning.
3 minutes. It starts now.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the opportunity, as always. I'm speaking on behalf of our community of Rogers Park. I always, and I will always bring up the ADA accessibility on Jarvis Red Line and on Morse Red Line. It's very important. I'm a big advocate of this. By law, you must be ADA accessible. I understand when you do a large project, there's a dollar amount before you do something with ADA accessibility, including elevators and escalators, but we need that. Especially on Morse Avenue, there used to be a secondary entrance exit on the other side of the street, the south side of the street. And I don't see why we can't use that for the accessibility. I don't understand. Maybe an engineer can help me out with that, but I don't understand why we can't use that former entrance exit for ADA accessibility for an escalator or elevator. Also, I was speaking with Rogers Park small business owners, and we're wondering why all of these empty storefronts are at Jarvis, Loyola, Morse, and Howard stations. Off the top of my head, there's about 9 different empty storefronts. Howard has one upstairs, one downstairs. Morse has one on the south side where the entrance used to be, and the north side, right next to the entrance of Morse station, and on the other entrance exit area on Morse from Morse station over to the north, over by Lunt. And Loyola has a former little convenience store that's no longer there. So we would like to see those empty storefronts filled. We would like to be a part of that solution. And I'd like a follow-up on that, please. Just one more quick thing, time's running out. Really do appreciate your participating in job fairs we're associated with. Most notably and recently, the Hire Refugee Job Fair, which we partnered with Carpool and Viral Resumes. I really do appreciate you guys being a part of it, and we need to hire more people in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Has anyone, because I appreciate, consistency is important for me, so I appreciate your consistency, as well as Brandon, Nick, and Caroline. But as far as, I know you've talked about this several times, about the Jarvis and
Morse stations.
Has anyone talked to you about the plans for that, or?
We did talk.
Followed up with you?
Yes, we did speak about the RPM project. We don't have an ETA on it. And we would, we've seen renovations on Jarvis and Morse before where there were a bunch of stones blocking the street and a whole bunch of different inconveniences, and the station's closed, but we didn't get our ADA accessibility. So I want to hold your feet to the fire on this. And I want to definitely make sure that it's in the top of your mind and priority list to put escalators and elevators at these 2 stops.
Okay. President Carter, can somebody just talk to me out, even offline about why this is not happening?
The issue is it's in the next phase of the RPM project that we have to get funding for. When we get the funding, we would be making the stations accessible. That's not even a question.
So it's funding.
But it's a broader funding question for funding the entire project, including those stations.
Is there an ETA with that?
No, we have to get the funding from the federal government. It's one of the things that I've worked very hard on. It's getting dedicated funding for station accessibility. Jarvis and Morse Station are a part of our program for funding the accessibility. We're in the process right now of updating our all station accessibility program, which lifts both our timelines as well as our commitments to making our system 100% accessible. There will be a public engagement process as part of that document. And in there, we'll obviously update what the timeline expectations can be for when those two stations will become accessible, all of which is contingent on getting a significant amount of federal funding to allow us to get the work done.
Okay, and how far does persons have to travel since that's not ADA accessible?
Well, they would have to go to either Howard Station or Loyola Station. Now Jarvis is very close to Howard, and during my follow-up, we realized that. But still, people with disabilities or people without vehicles or people carrying heavy items or people grocery shopping or little strollers with their kids, we need to have it accessible.
And we share that commitment. Obviously, we're working to get the funding to do that. And certainly we are committed to making our entire system 100% accessible so that we can address all of our customers' needs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the follow-up.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Nick, Brandon, Caroline, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I heard you with the FOIA request. So now my question to Kent is there a timeline that FOIA requests have to be, can you talk to enlighten me and the public so I'll know? I hear what they're saying and I want what they're saying to be taken into consideration.
We hear you. There is a statutory timeline depending upon the nature of the requester. Starting around the end of last month, and we have 4 full-time employees working on the FOIA process. Starting around the end of last year, our FOIA requests just really started going up to some extent. And I think last year we had about 949 requests. Already in January of this year, we're about at 147. So we're really trying to come up with ways to process the increase in the number of FOIA requests in an expeditious fashion. And we'll commit to do better.
And you said that the statutory on that depends on the request?
It depends on the nature of the requestor, whether they're private or commercial. There's other distinctions that are made in this law.
Do you have any access to data on what percentage of these requests we historically responded to, like what's?
I can provide that.
And once a request is made, is there an immediate response to the person making the request saying we've received it? Not giving you the information, but saying, hey, we've gotten your request and we'll work on it and you'll have it within the next 30, 60, 90, 120 days?
That I don't know. Are you acknowledged?
An acknowledgement, typically the next business day, which is what's required by the statute. For personal request, it's 5 days and commercial 21 business days. With an extension of 5 more as needed. And so you get your initial acknowledgement and then your 5-day follow-up. And then we get ghosted after that. Yeah, and that's when we follow up with the public access counselor. That's when they send their letters and stuff, and eventually they go along their process. They can issue binding, not binding opinions, but eventually the last result is they will file a lawsuit against CTA to fulfill the FOIA if CTA does not respond. Typically they do that about 90 days after a request is made, which we are kind of getting close to.
Just as an example, I have one request that was filed in early December, I think December 1st. That got extended and then the extension deadline passed. I followed up with CTA a couple times. And they said, we're working on it. And then I went to the public access counselor. They sent 3 letters or I don't know if they sent 3 letters or
Sent 2, they're working on a
yeah,
binding.
they sent, that's right. They sent 2 letters and then they follow up the 3rd time. They're going to take some kind of action. That request has been outstanding for 2.5 months now.
I have one that's been outstanding since the beginning of December. It's maybe on 10 business.
Okay, my question is,
Okay, thank you.
you indicated that there were 900 last year. Just
About 950. Yeah.
treating any group different than any other group.
We don't. We really do our best to get these out. I tasked the FOIA group in looking at recent numbers where we stand on them, I've tasked them coming up with proposals for improving our time minutes.
And there are 4 full-time.
4 full-time, and then we have a part-time administrator.
Jeez, okay. Thank you.
We increased the FOIA office by 1 last year. We'll look at recommendation that we increase from.
Yeah, it's not enough people. Thank you all. Thank you, Chairman.
Our last public commentator is Isaac Campbell.
Good morning, happy Valentine's Day.
Good morning.
Hey, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you.
May I remind you that you have 3 minutes?
Yes, please. I would have been here earlier, but they stole my catalytic converter from my Chevrolet Venture. When I went to my wife's car, they have stolen the resonator. I came here on behalf of my neighbors of Roger Park. Thank God that the COVID is gone. So everyone is back to work, children at their places. So what I would like, I'm requesting the reestablishment of the schedule of the 147 bus. That is a very, very important bus for Roger Park. The train is a solution, but these stairs, these 30, 40 stairs, then when you come after the train, you have to walk 3, 4, 5 blocks. The 147, the only thing that I am requesting on behalf of my people is that the last bus from Howard Station leave, let's say, at 10:30, a little bit more. That's all that I'm requesting.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
10:30, okay.
Thank you.
Chairman Barclay, there are no further public comments.
Thank you, Georgette. Our next item of business on the agenda is the president's report. Dorval Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to have Molly Poppy, Chief Planning and Innovation Officer, come up to give you a report on what we're doing around bus service. As you know, we spend a lot of time discussing our rail service and the way it performs. And what we sometimes gets lost is that the majority of our customers actually use our buses at some point in time. There's a lot of work that we're doing around the bus service activity that is intended to improve both the level of our service, quality of our service, and the impact it has on our customers. And Molly has a presentation she's going to give you that kind of walk you through the work that we're doing, the work that we have planned for this year, and the opportunities that we have to improve our bus service over the course of the next year. Molly?
Thank you, President Carter. 1 second here while I share screen. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. As first said, I'm Molly Poppy. I'm the Chief Planning and Innovation Officer here at CTA. And we're here today to talk about bus. And it's something that my team and really the entire agency has a concerted focus on is how do we continue to improve bus service at CTA? Because as you can see here, we think it's the sort of public transit underdog. You get a lot of important investments happening in rail, a lot of important conversations about rail infrastructure projects. And we wanted to take a chance to really talk about bus service and how it is an important aspect of our service and how it really does support equity, sustainability, and livability in Chicago. Okay, so as we think about bus, we really see it as a key advantage compared to CTA rail. It's more accessible. It's more accessible in the ADA sense. As we've heard, we are working on ASAP, all stations accessibility plan, and making all of our stations accessible. But our buses are 100% accessible. It provides great geographic coverage throughout the city, and it includes connecting many communities that maybe aren't connected via rail. So first, I just want to start with a couple key facts about our bus service. Importantly, we have 127 bus routes that traverse the entire city and including many of our surrounding suburbs. This map here shows the nearly 11,000 bus stops that we have throughout the city. There are nearly 1,900 buses in our fleet and nearly 3,400 bus operators currently operating our bus service. Important key fact that I didn't realize until my staff put this in here is that we have over 350 million passenger miles ridden on CTA buses annually. That is longer than a trip to Mars and back, which I think is just a really important point to note of how much our bus service does deliver service hours across the city and how many customers rely on us on a daily basis with our bus service. 96% of Chicagoans live within a half mile of a bus stop. 30% of Chicagoans live within a half mile of a CTA rail station. And another important point as we think about bus and we think about the connection point is a lot of our riders are transferring. So many of our riders are taking a bus to a rail line to get where they need to go, or taking a bus to a bus in order to get where they need to go. And so the bus really does expand that grid of our rail system and ensure access for our riders. The next important piece is just generally about ridership. And as I've been mentioning, we see a higher ridership on bus than we do on rail. Roughly 58% of our rides that we deliver we delivered in 2023 are delivered on bus. That comes out to about 162 million rides taken on bus last year alone. That is a 15.5% increase in bus ridership over 2023 compared to 2022. And as you can see, in this graph, I just want to point out, you can see this continuous growth and recovery of bus ridership over time since the decline that we all saw in ridership as it relates to COVID. And then you see that growth and how bus continues to outpace rail from a ridership perspective. So there's really 4 components of bus that we like to think about, and this covers every aspect of the agency. So this is not just the planning and innovation department. This is the administration department under Tom McCone. This is operations under Don Bonds, infrastructure under Bill Mooney, and really the entire agency is invested in bus and has key components of making our bus system work. And as we look at it, there's service. So that's, think about hiring and bus operators. There's route and geographic coverage. There's frequency of our service and span of service. There's also the bus priority infrastructure. This is primarily done in partnership with the Chicago Department of Transportation, but this also includes investments that we do on our own as it relates to infrastructure. There's vehicle fleet. So how does our vehicle fleet, how do we manage uptime? How do we continue to improve our fleet to ensure that it's a modern, accessible fleet for everyone? Lastly, there's technology. As we continue to think about investments in bus, we don't think about it from a service on the street. How many buses do we have out there? What does the infrastructure on the street look like? We really want to make sure that we have a holistic technology approach around bus that does focus on how do we ensure people get the right information before they even get on the bus? How are we communicating with them to help them make the decisions? And then how do we communicate and provide good service on the bus? So we'll talk about digital bus screens, things like that. And then it goes to how do we make our system more efficient? So transit signal prioritization and other investments. So I know we've talked with the board about this and just as a reminder of some of the key projects that we have coming up. Bus Vision is one project that we will be kicking off in earnest in the next couple of months around public engagement. Bus Vision is really about the bus network. It is going to be engagement with the community, engagement with our riders about what type of service do they want to see? What do they see as the strengths and weaknesses of our service? And what are those trade-offs? So as we talk to riders, as they tell us, we want less bus stops because we think that'll make the service faster. What does that mean from accessibility or vice versa? We want more bus stops. So what does that mean potentially for speed? And so we'll have those conversations with our community to understand what they want to see around our bus service and what the network can do to support them and where they want to go. And I just want to point out on the map here, this map shows an analysis of how many more jobs in Chicago can be reached from any point in 45 minutes. And this is compared to the number of jobs in the general vicinity. So as I mentioned, bus really does add, and transit in general does add that access to jobs, access to, economy that may not be available within walking distance. So as we think about our bus network and we think about our rail network, we really think about the access that we can provide for healthcare, for jobs, for school. And we want to make sure that that bus vision does reflect how the community wants to use our service. Better Streets for Bus is a really important partnership that we launched with CDOT at the end of last year. And it really is a down payment on Mayor Johnson's transition plan. And what he called for in his transition plan is prioritizing the development of a citywide network of bus rapid transit and dedicated bus lanes that gives buses priority over car and truck traffic. So Better Streets for Bus is really about the infrastructure. So it's about that, what's happening on the street. We launched this comprehensive framework back in November and December of last year. Excuse me. And it really builds on a lot of key projects that we've already launched with CDOT. So it builds on Loop Link, the Jeffrey Jump, and some priority bus zones that we've seen pop up throughout the city recently. There's 17 corridors that are identified in Better Streets for Bus. And it really lays that groundwork for how are the infrastructure investments that we want to make in those corridors. And those investments come from a whole toolbox. So it can be, wide ranging improvements like dedicated bus lanes or BRT. And it could be more sort of bus stop treatments or bus friendly intersections like we think about transit signal prioritization, queue jumps, and better boarding. In 2024, we have committed to study at least 3 bus corridors in this 17 that have been identified in Better Streets for Bus framework. And these bus corridors are actually supported by an investment from Cook County. So we have an investment from Cook County to support the study of these corridors and identify the types of infrastructure improvements that are needed along those corridors to improve the speed and reliability of that service. CDOT is a critical partner, not just in Better Streets for Bus, but as we think about everything that's happening on the street. I want to note that when we do street redesign or resurfacing, CTA is often heavily engaged with CDOT in how they're making decisions about the street. So as CDOT is prioritizing bike lanes and other investments that they're making, CTA is at the table advocating for bus and advocating for something that ensures the safety of our pedestrians, our riders, and really does work to speed up bus service. We also do work with CDOT on transit signal prioritization. This is more of a technology piece, but it is something that we really work hand in glove with CDOT on. And transit signal prioritization, or TSP, provides infrastructure to adjust signal timing. So as you think about, bus pulling up to a street light that has TSP, it can send a signal to the street light saying, hold a couple more seconds so I can get through the light. And so that just allows us to stay on schedule, especially it supports anytime a bus is running behind schedule. And for TSP, we currently have it launched on Western, South Ashland, and Jeffrey. And we're looking to do some additional investments along Ashland from Cermak to Irving Park. And that is expected to start in 2024 and run through early 2025. We're also developing what we call the next gen of TSP. And that's really about a centralized TSP and looking at more corridors and more ways that we can improve TSP across the city. And as you think of centralized TSP, it's something where you would need to update all of the streetlights throughout the city in order to provide that priority for the bus instead of doing what we do now. We have to go basically street by street, intersection by intersection. Accessibility. Accessibility is a critical component of our bus service. And there's really 2 key pieces that we've started to work on and we're looking for additional investments on. The first larger picture here, we partner with CDOT to achieve accessibility improvements at key bus stops, targeting 100 bus stops annually. So what that means is improving boarding pads. It means, extending the bus stop so that it's more accessible. And we have a really strong partnership with CDOT and have been committed, and CDOT is updating bus stops at about 100 bus stops each year. This is throughout the city of Chicago. And then we also do work with our partners in Evanston as well to ensure that all of our bus stops are accessible to our riders. Next, we also have been expanding tactile bus stop signage. Here in the lower corner here, that big bus stop sign that you see here has Braille. It is a tactile bus sign. We've installed 2,000 signs to date. That's across 16 routes throughout the city. And we are working to install network wide, so across every single bus stop that we have in the city over the next 2 years. This is just one investment that we're making in bus stops. And we'll talk a little bit later about what we're doing around digital bus stop signage. The tactile bus stops has been a great partnership that we've done with our ADA advisory committee, but we do know that there's more that we can do here. And so we really see this as a down payment on that investment to improve accessibility at the bus stops, and we'll continue to look to expand it. So bus technology. There's a lot happening on this slide, a lot of different things, but I'll sort of walk through it at a quick level. So the top picture here that says Franklin on it, that is a new digital signage that we have on our buses that is being installed on all new buses entering our fleet. And what that is doing is it provides more information to the rider about the upcoming bus stops. It can also help show transfer points. So you can see here, it says Washington and Franklin, and below it, it says where you might be able to connect and transfer to another bus or another train. It does not replace the audio announcements. So we will continue to have audio announcements on the bus announcing the next bus stop. But this is also an easier way, a more holistic way to view for the riders what's happening on their stop. As I mentioned, we're also looking to pilot digital bus stop signage with expanded information. So we have the metal bus stop signs and we have the tactile bus stop signs. We're looking to expand and put digital bus stop signage at key bus stops throughout the city that will enhance accessibility. So can it do text to speech? It can do alerts. We're really looking to expand that. And you can see in that lower left corner picture here, that's just one example of what we may be looking to pilot. In the right corner there, that is our active detection collision avoidance system. That is a system that we have deployed on all of our new buses as well that helps operators become more aware of pedestrians, bikes, and scooters. All of you who drive, you're very familiar. Most cars now have that in their systems now to tell you when someone might be in your blind spot. This is a very similar approach, and it gives the operators more information around potential vulnerable users, helps them to respond to what's happening on the street. We'll also have ongoing enhancements to Bus Tracker. Most importantly, this includes adopting the industry standard GTFS RT feed. This is going away from our APIs, which is a proprietary solution that we've launched that all the third parties have to figure out how to read. You kind of have to give them instructions in order to read it. And that does cause some challenges that we've seen in our third party tracking apps. So we want to move to a GTFS RT because that is more accurate, and third parties really understand how to utilize that because it is an industry standard. The next piece of this is disruption management. And disruption management is a tool that we are launching. The technology department under Caroline Gallagher is leading this effort with support from my team and others around how do we better communicate to riders about alerts. So if there's a reroute, if there's a special event, how do we have better communications with our riders around bus service so that they can make good decisions and that they're not sort of standing at a bus stop that we're not going to service and they're not aware of it. We do publish alerts as it is today, but it's not very dynamic and it's a little hard for riders to understand. So through this tool, we're going to be able to better publish information to them. The last one is new fare boxes. So our fare boxes are 37, almost 38 years old. They are an entirely mechanical system. And we are transitioning those to a seamless integrated system on the bus. So our fare boxes previously didn't talk to any other system on the bus. Now we will be integrating those fare boxes with Ventra. It'll also be integrated with our CAD ABL system. And so that there is a single sign-on for the operator. Operator has less screens in front of them, a more seamless experience for the operator, but importantly as well, a more seamless way for cash paying riders. We find a good majority of our cash paying riders are tourists or students. And so those are individuals that maybe are not as familiar with our system. They haven't been riding for a long period of time. So we want to make sure that that fare box is very easy for them to use and a seamless experience. So the last couple of things that I want to talk about is we went through kind of a laundry list of everything we're doing around bus, but there's really transformational projects that will have huge impacts, not just on an individual rider and the individual experience of a rider, but will have a transformational impact on the city as a whole. The first is North DuSable Lakeshore Drive. CTA has been working with the Chicago Department of Transportation, CDOT, and the Chicago Park District for probably 8 to 10 years. I might be underselling it. It might be a little bit longer than that, to identify how do we transform Lakeshore Drive to a corridor that can serve bus riders, vehicular traffic, pedestrians, and address some of the safety concerns that exist on North DuSable Lakeshore Drive. I want to note that North DuSable Lakeshore Drive is CTA's highest bus corridor. So we have the most bus riders on that corridor than any other area of the city. And you can see in the map here, you can see that intense concentration of riders in that sort of salmony pink color along the lakefront. It is 7 routes on Lakeshore Drive that are serviced. And that actually makes North DuSable Lakeshore Drive to carry more people than a Metra rail line. So it is a high ridership corridor. It's an important corridor for us, and we are partnering with the Park District and CDOT to launch some investments on how do we ensure that North DuSable Lakeshore Drive can deliver for the key users. And I want to note, something that Mayor Johnson's transition report has said about DuSable Lakeshore Drive, which is prioritizing the movement of people, not cars. And that's really what we are working on with CDOT and with the Chicago Park District to ensure that we can focus on moving people and not moving cars along North DuSable Lakeshore Drive. The final transformational project is eBus. We've talked about this a lot with the board. The board is familiar with this. And we launched a study in 2022 called Charging Forward that laid out the path for a full electrification of our bus system in 2040. There's key benefits of electrification. I think the most important is limiting the health impacts of diesel emissions. It also can reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. It also just ensures that already sustainable system, right? CTA is already a more sustainable, more economic or environmentally friendly way to get around the city than everyone driving their own personal vehicle. We're able to make that even greener. With any transformation that involves 1,900 buses and 127 bus routes, there's really key challenges. And the two really biggest key challenges is sufficient funding. It is a mandate that we want to deliver by 2040 to be all electric. In order to do that, that does require a significant amount of funding and power upgrades from ComEd and others. And that is something that we continue to work through and continue to look to identify the funding to achieve electric buses. And then something that President Carter has been leading from a national standpoint is vehicle supply. How do we ensure that we can have enough vehicles supplying the e-bus demand? CTA is not the only one looking to be electric by 2040. I think every transit agency in the country is pretty much looking to be all electric by 2040. And it's not like there is a huge amount of bus manufacturers in the country in order to deliver that. And so that is a key challenge for us as we continue to look to electrify our fleet. And then I would just note, we all saw the news about Tesla and what happens in cold weather to battery range. This is similar things that we have to work through from a CTA side. And, we do prioritize that ahead of time. We've thought about it, obviously, since we operate in cold weather, so we're aware of it. But, cold weather does have an impact on battery range. Lastly, I just want to comment on something that President Carter has been working on. He participated in a roundtable on clean bus manufacturing. He's been working with the heads of major transit agencies from across the country, including New York, LA, Philadelphia, and others. And there's a real conversation that's happening with the White House Climate Policy Office, as well as the transit industry as a whole, both from the operator side as well as the FTA side, of how do we start to build that capacity in the US around manufacturing of clean buses and ensuring that we're able to keep up with that demand. And I think CTA being at the forefront and leading that effort is critically important, because in order to deliver on our strategy, we have to make sure that there's capacity throughout the country in order to deliver. Okay. that is my last slide. I'm gonna back to just this slide because I like it. With that, I can happy to take any questions that you have from the board on our bus approach or questions about any of the projects that I walked through.
Any questions from board members?
Director Ja?
Do you have any update in terms of a plan for the 2040 working backwards?
On the E-bus?
Yeah, because I mean, obviously the mass infrastructure evolve, bus availability, are we able to start to project out? It's gonna get delayed by 5 years or 10 years, or, you know, are we gonna be able to meet that goal? Like, I think
So-
we could start.
We have a plan, to answer your question, yes. Charging forward, that lays out sort of the complexity of what it takes for us to get to a full electric, fleet. The issue that the plan didn't contemplate is what's happening with the bus manufacturing industry. 9 years ago, there were 10 bus manufacturers, big buses in this country. Today, there are 2. Yes. What the impact of that's going to be on not just my plan, but everybody else's plan throughout the country is a big part of the conversation I'm engaged in right now. And certainly will impact what we're talking about doing in terms of our overall commitment to making our fleet completely zero emission fleet. But yes, before we started down this process, we brought in an outside consultant to really look at complexities, what it takes, not only, I like this line, buying the bus is the easiest part of this conversation. The more difficult part is building out the charging infrastructures, retrofitting your garages and working with the utility companies to ensure they have the capacity to support the electric grid that we're going to need in order to operate our vehicles. That is also a big part of the conversation we're having at the White House right now, of bringing those additional resources from the Department of Energy, Department of Commerce, and others to really make sure that all components of what are necessary to make this work are in place in order to allow us to achieve our goals.
So then, President Carter, with that, with the White House knowing what the aim is, charging forward, are they not looking to put money behind the charging forward?
Well, that's one of the conversations we're having with them.
Okay.
That, there's been a level of funding to buy buses.
Mhm.
There needs to be more funding to support buses. There needs to be more funding to support the infrastructure. And part of that may not necessarily be from the Department of Transportation. It may be from the Department of Energy or other programs that actually have funding to support this, that will allow us to accomplish our goals. But the coordination of all those efforts really starts in the White House. And to their credit, they invited us to talk to them about the challenges that we're facing so that they could better support what we need to get the goals done. And certainly during that conversation, they certainly expressed their desire to want to make sure that we were getting access to the resources and the coordination that we need across all governmental agencies to support the ultimate outcome that we're all trying to achieve.
So in light of what you said, President Carter, is 2040 realistic?
I don't have an answer for that yet. That's part of what we have to figure out and understand, given what's happened in this industry, given what the current capacity is, for the existing manufacturers, and given what may happen to try to bring more manufacturers back into the market. A lot of what I've been working on in the task force is putting forth a number of recommendations that the manufacturers have identified to us that we have within our control to address that could hopefully make the market much more welcoming for other entrants. It involves issues around progress payments, indexing of prices, and things of that nature. That are things that I've discussed with my procurement office and with our legal counsel. And part of what I'm doing right now is having those conversations with my fellow CEOs to make sure that we understand if we're going to get to where we want to be as an industry, we're going to have to change the way we've conducted the process by which we purchased buses in the past. There's also a big conversation around customization. A lot of bus companies are very upset at the level of customization that occurs with each bus order. And that obviously increases their cost of production and ultimately impacts their ability to deliver on the products that we have, particularly when you add all the technology. I mean, you heard Molly talk about just a portion of the new technology that we put on our buses today. Buses are like glowing computers. And and while you are used to seeing that if you're buying a personal vehicle, what you're not used to is being able to tell the manufacturer what you want on that vehicle. In other words, if you were to buy a Ford and you basically looked at the navigation systems on the Ford and said, you know, I don't like that navigation system. I want you to put this special custom navigation system in my car. Ford would tell you to go pound sand. In our industry, our manufacturers say, sure, we'll do that for you. And that has resulted in a level of customization that quite honestly has gotten to the point where we're not getting necessarily what we need, getting what we want. And that doesn't necessarily result in the best outcomes, both in terms of the quality of what we get, the timeliness of what we get, and ultimately the cost of what we get. Because we're paying for this in ways that have shown the price of a vehicle here in the United States is significantly higher than the price you would pay for a similar vehicle in another country. And a lot of that has to do with the requirements that we put on our manufacturers, the way we procure our buses, and the customizations that we ask as part of that process. So part of what I hope comes out of this effort is not only the increase in the number of manufacturers to meet our future demand, but also a reduction in the cost, which means the money that I do have can buy more buses, ultimately allowing us to get to the goal that we want to get to as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Marley. And you're right. I believe the bus is a underdog, overlooked 58%. But thank you for this information. And yeah, the buses are moving. President Carter, I did hear you say that started out with 10 and the manufacturers are down to 2.
Correct.
And does that come from the White House? How do we get back up to 10 or get it moving? How to go beyond 2?
Yeah, no, I think everyone agrees that we need more than 2. And, you know, I should point out, when I say 2, there are 2 and there's 1 in bankruptcy that may or may not ultimately resolve this issue. The one in bankruptcy, just for full disclosure, is the bus manufacturer that we're buying our buses from, Proterra, right now. So, you know, Kent and the legal team are very much involved in the bankruptcy discussions and are following that very closely. We still have a number of buses that they owe us as part of our contract that we want to be sure we receive, because obviously that would impact the game plan for what we're doing in terms of our overall commitment. But yeah, part of the conversation with the White House is around what can we do to remove barriers to allow entry of more companies to come into the market. Obviously creating not only more buses for us, but more jobs in the United States, which is obviously a plus from the administration standpoint. And they're committed to helping us really look at what they can do to support that effort. We've given a number of recommendations in our broader plan of things that they can be looking at to do to help with that. That really can only happen at the level of the White House or in Congress through legislation that can allow more companies to come into the market.
Director Lee.
Thanks, Molly. Really appreciate it. As you know, I'm a big fan of buses and I ride them more often than the train. So I'm just really looking forward to all the improvements, especially around accessibility. Thanks.
One thing I do want to build off what President Carter was saying is there's the federal leadership that's happening, but there's lots of conversations that happen with the state as well. The state has a role to play as well in how we work with ComEd as our utility provider and how they upgrade the grid. And so I think all of those conversations that we're involved in, both at the federal level and at the state level, are going to be important to ensure that it gets funded, because it is a huge band-aid and something that requires a lot of support from both state and federal government.
And Michelle, we're working now to acquire more power, correct?
Yes. We have RFP going out on the street to put in place a new power contract, because our current power contract ends at the end of 2024. And that's for the purchasing of power, the supply, and ComEd delivers the power.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
That concludes our report.
Thank you, President Carter. Our next order of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of January 18th, 2024. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Jod, that the minutes from the regular board meeting of January 18th, 2024 be approved. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Jod? Chairman Barclay, the motion passes.
Our next order of business is executive session. It's my understanding, Kent, that there is an executive session.
Mr. Chairman, the board will move into closed session pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2C, subsections 2, 11, and 21.
I will now entertain a motion to recess into executive sessions for reasons stated by council.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Jod, that we recess into executive session. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Jod?
Yes.
The motion to recess into executive session passes.
It's like that.
Turn to open session.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Lee, that we return to open session. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
The motion passes.
We will now address board agenda item 5A. Kent?
Thank you, Chairman. In item 5A, the board reviewed the closed session meeting minutes, January the 18th, 2024.
Thank you, Kent. May I have a motion to approve the closed session minutes for January 18th, 2024?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that we approve the closed session minutes from January 18th, 2024. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
The motion to approve the minutes from the closed session passes.
We will now address board agenda item 5B. Kent?
Thank you. And in connection with board agenda item 5B, the board reviewed the recommendation by council to approve an ordinance ratifying 2 memoranda of agreement with the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 241.
Thank you, Kent. May I have a motion to approve an ordinance ratifying 2 memoranda of agreement with the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 241?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that the board approve the agreement with Amalgamated Union 241. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
The motion passes.
We will now address board item agenda 5A. 5C, I'm sorry. Kent?
Thank you, Chairman. In connection with board agenda item 5C, the board reviewed the recommendation by council to approve a settlement in the matter of Nicholas Romano versus the Chicago Transit Authority in the Circuit Court of Cook County, case number 2020 L 008542 in the amount of $900,000.
Thank you, Kent. May I have a motion to approve a settlement in the matter of Nicholas Romano versus Chicago Transit Authority in the Circuit Court of Cook County, case number 2020 L 008542 in the amount of $900,000.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that the settlement agreement recommended by council in the matter of Nicholas Romano versus the CTA in the amount of $395,000 be approved. We'll take a roll call vote.
That would be $900,000.
$900,000. Oh, yeah. Big difference. $900,000 will be approved. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja? Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay? Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
The motion to approve the settlement passes.
We will now address board agenda item 5D. Kent?
Thank you, Chairman. Finally, in connection with board agenda item 5D, the board reviewed the recommendation by council to approve a settlement in the matter of Lionel Kelly versus Chicago Transit Authority pending in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, case number 20 CV 2881 in the amount of $395,000.
Thank you, Kent. May I have a motion to approve a settlement in the matter of Lionel Kelly versus Chicago Transit Authority in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, case number 20 CV 2881 in the amount of $395,000.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja to approve the settlement recommended by council in the matter of Lionel Kelly versus the Chicago Transit Authority in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Jakes? Director Ja? The motion passes.
We will now address board agenda item number 6, board matters. Georgette, do we have any board matters today?
No, Chairman Barclay, we have no board matters today.
And our next order of business is a report from the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget, which will be presented by Director Jakes.
Chairman Barclay, the committee met earlier this morning and approved the January 18th, 2024 committee minutes and the finance report. The committee reviewed 3 ordinances. 1, review of an ordinance authorizing an update to ordinance number 023-118 to authorize up to $9 million for stipends to encourage proposals for the Red Line Extension Project Design Build Contract. 2, review of an ordinance authorizing a lease of property located at 11203 South Corliss Avenue, Chicago, for the Red Line Extension Project. 3, review of an ordinance authorizing a first amendment to a license agreement with Christ Temple Missionary Baptist Church, for property located at 57 West 95th Street, Chicago. The committee also reviewed 9 contracts. Committee placed the 3 ordinances and 9 of the contracts on the omnibus. Committee approved and recommended for board approval 3 ordinances and the 9 contracts, and we got out at 10 o'clock. That concludes my report.
I will now entertain a motion to approve the omnibus.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja to approve the omnibus. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay? Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee? The motion passes.
Our next order of business is the construction report from Bill Mooney, our Chief Infrastructure Officer, and Juan Pablo Prieto, our Director of Diversity Program.
Good morning, I'm your Chief Infrastructure Officer. I'm joined by Morning Juan Pablo Prieto, Director of the Program. We are here with your monthly construction update. We'll begin where we normally do, our CDOT Lake Haven Station project.
I'll put forward a couple pictures. I think this first one's great. It really gives you a sense of the site. So this would be looking northwest on Damon towards the new station house. You can see the new station house in the back. There'll be a fully enclosed glass station house, as well as that main tower that connects, the 2 platforms and that over bridge that will be coming up in the upcoming months, as well as the elevators that go in that facility going through that tower. You can kind of get the scale of the site. And in the far, background, you can see the other elevator tower that showed up. So that bright green element in the background is the elevator tower and stair connection for that bridge. It's a really, really cool architectural piece. If you come up on it, from street level, it's really stunning. Will really be a great station identifier. Here you can see some of the interior finishes that are coming together. The station's quickly coming to wrap up. It will be opening later this summer. You can see the fine wood finished ceilings here, and you can also start to see some of that platform level. This is at the mezzanine on the at platform level. And here's that tower I mentioned a minute ago, where the elevator tower. It really is a stunning kind of feature. You can see the stairs connecting off that elevator tower ultimately down to the platform as well. That bridge that will connect the 2 platforms goes right in between those 2 structures there. That should be coming up, and you'll see that in the next couple months. And here you can see kind of the finished platform elements. So most of the precast platform is in place. You're starting to get the canopy built. Some of the lighting elements coming in as well, and you can see some of those finishes there. Our next project is our non-revenue rail vehicle maintenance facility. It's quickly coming to conclusion. Most of the work here is on finishes at this point. So here you can see some electricians trimming out the wiring, putting in plugs, things like that. Here you can see kind of the mass of the facilities. They're doing some touch-up painting on the overhead piping. You can see in the background that aluminum silver kind of box is actually a paint booth. So the facility will allow them to actually paint the equipment on site there. Here are some of the bathroom trim outs. So you don't often think about locker rooms being some of the more important parts of our facilities, but really for the employees, they are one of the most important parts of facilities, and they've got some really nice finishes here in the final finish. This is quickly coming together. We're starting to build the track that will connect this facility to the rest of the railroad as we speak. And in the upcoming couple of months, we'll be talking about the opening. Here's that interior view, so you can kind of get that finished product look on the inside. It is a massive facility. I don't think I can ever say that enough. I was out there Friday walking through, and every time I go through the building, it is just astonishing how big this building is. Moving on to Barry, Damon, and Canal. Here you can see the exterior of Damon Substation on the outside picture. This is a black brick facade with a galvanized finished steel, but ultimately where that wood is the glass enclosures that will be able to be seen from the station into the building itself. Will be a really neat kind of feature. I've talked about it a couple times. So most of the exterior finishes are in place. They're getting ready to start installing the glass. The building was enclosed prior to winter. So they've been able to actually do painting inside. So they've been able to provide some nominal heat, be able to get the facility painted and starting to prep for the equipment to come in the upcoming couple months. Here at, this is over at Haymarket, just down the block from here. So all the new equipment is in place here. Here you can see them connecting the cables that ultimately go out of the facility down the street up to the green line. So this ultimately is bringing a new feed to the green line that then gets transferred to the new breaker house down in the subway. This is Canal Breaker House, so we're borrowing power off the green line to share it on the blue line capacity there. I showed you a couple months ago this little building being built in the subway, being brought in a bunch of pieces over a weekend. Here you can see them starting to build out the building itself, bringing in the rest of the equipment and prepping kind of all the cabling connections they need to make in that building as they put all those pieces together. Here's Barry. So you can see the full framework. All the steel is up in the air now so that the actual building shape is fully formed. They're starting to finish all the concrete pours for all the floors. And in the upcoming, months, you'll start seeing the brick facade coming in place. And then you'll see some similar finishes starting to go on as we're seeing in Damon. Damon's probably about 3 months ahead of Barry at this point. Both of them are expected to be online by the end of the year with the conclusion of this. And Red Purple modernization project continues forward. Last month I talked about the transition on the Red Purple bypass area, what we call from NM2 to NM3. Now we are fully running on that new structure, and now all the old structure is gone. So now we are kind of in that rebuild cycle. They have demolished everything. We started this past Friday a 45-day closure of Clark Street. And when we built the first phase here, we had to do all our work over that quarter in between Cubs games over the summer. So we worked with the community to come up with a better plan for this season. We're going to get all our work out of that footprint ahead of the big season coming up, and we'll be out of the way for a home opener in April. And then we won't have any closures for Clark Street at all for the summer. So that's a really big gain for both the community and us. It is a little bit of acceleration on the project, but it's really, I think, the best benefit for everybody. Here you can see we actually demoed across Clark Street in one of the most recent weekends. And you get the sense of what the final finish is going to be there with that new structure in place with the historical structure gone. Going up to Lawrence Bryn Mawr area, so we've got stations coming up out of the ground. Here you can see the elevator pit and some of the foundational work for the Bryn Mawr station. This is the first one kind of as everything else of this project. We kind of work north to south up at this corridor. And so Bryn Mawr being the furthest north station is the one that has 2 entrances and an exit. So one of the larger platforms here, and you can see some of that work going in place. And here is the deck pour. Last month, I showed you some of the form work for this is at the far northern edge of the project where the gantry launches from. And so you can see them pouring that concrete deck finish there. The gantry is scheduled to start arriving on site next week. And then so in the upcoming months, you'll start to see the assembly of the Windy City gantry again. We're really excited to get that going. And that really moves the project forward. So it's neat to see it come together again and really see the buzz of the work up there. We talk about our outreach events. We had our first of community meetings talking about the underall activation space. The board took action last summer to fully remove the embankment in this area and reactivate the space as a community activated space. We did 2 community meetings, once on January 10th and one on January 11th at 2 different parts of the corridor, focusing on kind of what's the wish list, right? So we talked about the world of possibilities, what was the best of interest in the community. These were some of the best attended community meetings I have ever experienced in my entirety of career at the CTA. There was over 250 people that came out to St. Ida's Church on the 10th and over 150 people that came out to Truman College. They were kind of the bookends of the project order. There was a lot of excitement. The community is really, really excited about this opportunity and what we could do with it. It was a really interesting. We brought on a specialty sub to help us cultivate this work. A group called Site Design Corporation. They are a DB firm that's supporting us in this operation. And it was a unique opportunity to hear people talk about what they would like to see envisioned. From babbling brooks to pathways to dog parks to pickleball to parking, everything you could imagine was in conversation. And they had lots of stickers where they could mark up maps about where they would want to see things on block by block. Because it's really unique and each portion of the block and community is a little different in each of those pieces. So from that, we're pulling all that information together, which was an overwhelming amount of input. Starting to see what the wish list is, what's possible, and we'll be coming back with some of those opportunities, talking about in future community meetings as well as with the board about kind of what the vision is. So you'll start to see some of that coming together in the upcoming months. And then we have our kind of our standard outreach that you see with the 44th Ward, the 46th Ward, the 48th Ward, our regular touch-ins. We regularly present to the ADA advisory meeting, which we did last month. We hold our virtual office hours, and you can see the note about those 2 public engagement opportunities for that underall corridor area. And then we had a regular participation with the Lakeview East Chamber of Commerce in preparation for this 45-day closure on Clark Street. We do have a big support the Open for Business campaign while we do have that street closure, lots of signage, lots of flyers and flags throughout the block highlighting the businesses that are there. We've been doing a lot of preparatory advertising to those businesses to make sure that they continue, everyone understands they're available, that you can reach them, they're there. So it's really active time in the project and really exciting to be a part of. With that, I'll turn over to Juan Pablo.
Thanks, Bill. On January 25th, we hosted our Q1 workforce outreach event. in the Red Line Extension footprint. Over 150 attendees came out to the Chicago Youth Center or CYC building in Elk Hill Gardens to learn about upcoming career opportunities on CTA projects, including RPM, RLE, Forest Park Rebuild, All Stations Accessibility, and more. Alderman Chico came out to the event as well and delivered some remarks at the top of the presentation. Team did a really good job of getting the word out so the community knew about the event and showed up. Most of the time, as usual, was reserved for attendees to visit tables hosted by all of our workforce partners, building trade unions, and CTA contractors and subcontractors. CTA Human Resources was also in attendance for those interested in working directly for us. Many community stakeholders were in attendance and very happy with the information and opportunities that we brought to our South Side. As of the end of January, 119 unique DBEs have been awarded over $267 million on RPM between the design and construction packages. 54 of those 119 are new to CTA. On the workforce side, as of the end of January, 2,087 unique individuals have worked over 1.5 million labor hours and earned over $91 million. Now I'd like to show you the next installment of our monthly video series in which we highlight RPM's ambitious workforce and DBE inclusion programs. Today we'll hear from Daniel Castellano, our carpenter with Walsh Floor, the design build contractor on RPM. Daniel has worked over 6,400 hours on the project and earned over $369,000 since 2021. As always, it's an honor to share these stories on how CTA and RPM are improving the lives of Chicagoans and their families.
Mi nombre es Daniel Castellanos. Tengo una experiencia de 25 años como carpintero. He estado en este proyecto CTA RPM trabajando como empleado para Walsh Floor por los últimos 2 años, 8 meses. Los carpinteros estamos encargados de hacer el framing de las columnas donde el puente sienta, los segments sientan. Como pueden ver ahí arriba, es una cerca temporal para poder trabajar nosotros sin flaggers de la CTA. En el lado opuesto del puente hay unos paneles de cemento que le llaman a sound wall. La instalación de ellos es parte de los carpinteros también. El trabajo de CTA RPM ha contribuido de una manera muy beneficiosa y grande. Ha impactado mucho en mi vida personal, a razón de que me ha dado la oportunidad de solventar una mejor vida para la familia, obviamente. Mis estándares como empleado y trabajar de una manera segura han crecido más durante estos 2 años y medio, a razón de que los estándares de Walsh Floor y estándares de CTA en cuestión de seguridad son muy grandes y eso he aprendido mucho. Mensaje al CTA RPM Project. Estoy agradecido principalmente por el trabajo que están haciendo hacia la comunidad, por emplear a tantos compañeros de trabajo, que somos bastantes. Estoy seguro que ha impactado tanto a compañeros como a residentes de la área y me gustaría ver más proyectos de esta magnitud a futuro. Yo siento que es algo bueno que están haciendo para la comunidad y para los usuarios del CTA en general. En lo personal, para mí me ha beneficiado mucho, tanto como empleado como usuario de la CTA.
Be happy to take any questions on any of the items we share.
Questions from me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
I love to see
Videos.
your face when the project is complete. You just have this glow.
Oh, I love this stuff. This is.
Yeah.
I have a great privilege to be able to do this stuff, so.
And that was great because I'm glad he was able to speak in his native tongue. You know, CTA has its challenges like any organization has challenges. But what I love about CTA is that it represents what America should be and what America should look. You know, so I'm glad he was speaking in his native tongue. So thank you for showing that.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our final order of business is new business, Georgette.
There's no new business.
Since there is no further business to come before the board, I have a motion to adjourn the Chicago Transit Board meeting of February 14th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that the Chicago Transit Board meeting of February 14th, 2024 be adjourned. Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Lee. The motion passes.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. See you next month.
Thank you.
7:58.
That was your Black History Month moment. Yeah, I was like.